Good morning, it's March 8th, and this is To My Liberal Friends. Would you feel safe walking down the streets of major U.S. cities? How about New York, Chicago, Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, or Los Angeles? Crime has become a major issue in this country, and it seems to have spiraled out of control during the pandemic and since then. We've all witnessed the videos of smash and grab gangs stealing high-end goods from stores across the country. In Los Angeles, officials cautioned people not to wear flashy jewelry or carry expensive purses. In New York, Mayor Adams is telling stores to require people to remove any mask they have on before they can enter, so they can be clearly seen and identified. In California, they're requiring some stores to provide their own security forces, admitting they cannot stop the wave of criminal actions and shoplifting in stores. New York City elected their new mayor, Eric Adams, because he ran on the issue of making the streets safer. He's a former NYPD officer. In New York's governor's race, the incumbent, Kathy Hochul, had to fend off a strong challenge by Lee Zeldin, who campaigned hard on the issue of crime and safety. Now, New York's a strong Democratic state, and yet Governor Hochul only won with 53%. That is almost unheard of in that state. And if you look at the map of New York, you would see that her victory was only ensured by huge advantages in the heavily Democratic urban areas. There are a lot of reasons that people speculate has caused the increase in crime. Many experts point to the progressive district attorneys that George Soros has funded. These district attorneys have made it more difficult to prosecute criminal behavior, and many have made it clear that they will not prosecute certain crimes. As I've mentioned before, the poster child of these progressive DAs is George Gascon in LA. He has made it clear that he does not intend to prosecute many criminal actions and has removed or transferred career prosecutors who disagree with him. One of those prosecutors sued Gascon in Los Angeles and over these actions and was awarded $1.5 million this past week. Several other prosecutors have already filed suit. The issue of crime is front and center again this week because of some action taken by the City Council in Washington, D.C. They had passed a bill to rewrite the city's criminal code. It was immediately controversial, and even the mayor of Washington, D.C., Muriel Bowser, vetoed the bill, only to have that veto overrode by the City Council. The revised code would eliminate almost all mandatory minimum sentences except for first-degree murder, which would keep its mandatory minimum of 24 years. The code would change the maximum punishment for first-degree murder from life in prison to 51 years behind bars if there's aggravated circumstances. For most crimes, including robbery, burglary, and carjacking, the new code would lower maximum penalties and replace sentencing ranges with a new tiered system, which proponents of the bill say would allow for sentencing guidelines to be more accurately fit the severity of the offense. But most experts say it will only embolden criminals, and particularly juveniles, who would be given lesser sentences. Crime has become a major problem in our nation's capital. Homicides are up 34% from last year, when the total exceeded 200, and car thefts have doubled over the same time period. Burglaries and property crimes are up 32%. And I should point out that this is not unique to Washington, D.C. These numbers are pretty similar in most of the major urban cities in our country. Going back to Washington, D.C. and the new crime bill they passed, we see that Congress has the ability under the Constitution to invalidate any law they disagree with. The House of Representatives had a resolution striking this law, and it was passed with Republican support and 38 Democrats voting with the Republicans. Democrats voting on this issue come from primarily swing districts and do not want to appear to be soft on crime. They now know that it's a major issue in the political spectrum. Most watched the results of the Chicago mayoral race, where the incumbent, Lori Littlefield, finished a distant third in the recent voting. This bill will now be sent to the Senate. It's expected they will vote today on the House resolution. It had previously been expected that President Biden would veto the bill if it came to his desk, but over the weekend he announced he would not veto it. That led Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer to suddenly announce that he had switched his position and would vote with the Republicans on the resolution. He does this to allow him to give cover to several Democrats in the Senate who wanted to vote for the resolution to appease voters back home and show them they're not soft on crime. In my opinion, Biden changed his position because he's reading the tea leaves of the political electorate. If he intends to run for re-election, as he keeps stating, he will soon have to abandon many of the progressive ideas that the far left have been pushing in his administration. He will move more to the center in an effort to gain votes, but you can be sure if he's reelected, he will swiftly change back to the progressive left and push the agenda because he will be untethered by any elections in the future. We've seen this change in a couple of issues already. He's adopting some of the Trump-era policies on the southern border. Hopefully, the American public will see through this charade that Biden and several other Democrats are using to show that they're listening to the American people. If the Republicans had not taken control of the House of Representatives, none of this would be playing out today. The Washington, D.C. City Council would have passed their bill and overrode the mayor's veto, and it would be enacted because Democrats would have controlled the House and the Senate and would have no intention of changing the law. It's time for the American voters to wake up and to realize that the progressive left and crime is not an issue they're concerned about. They're concerned more about diversity and gender politics rather than what's good for the American public. It's been To My Liberal Friends. Thanks for listening. Please hit the subscribe button and recommend to your friends. Thank you.